What is up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? How is everybody doing today? So I wanted to start off the stream with something I do every now and then on the stream, and that's some sort of podcast episode thing where I do this fairly irregularly, where I talk about specific topics that I have interest in or I have thought about, and I discuss them with the chat. And also it's posted on YouTube as well. Discussed there on YouTube. And I had an interesting thought while watching the Game Awards that I didn't really vocally speak about, but I thought about it. Now I just wasn't quite sure about it, but I thought about it more and more, and I think that I'm not far off with this guess. And I mean, unless you can't read, you can probably tell by the title, and that is that I think Bandai Namco is going to take over the fighting game genre, unless Capcom pulls their head out of their ass, which evidence is showing that they are. But I just want to get into why I think Bandai Namco is probably. I think this is their time, right? Usually when you think fighting games, ask just the normal person, the layman, right? Who do they say? It's like when you think of video games, you think of like Mario, you think of like Ryu, and Ryu's from Street Fighter, right? All these, like, Street Fighter has iconic characters. Like, Marvel vs. Capcom games are incredibly like historic in arcades. Just Capcom fighting games in general have been just the fighting game, right? Obviously, there's history with other fighting games, but I'm talking on a very broad sense to normal people. Capcom has been that company. So, and as of recently, if you don't know, Capcom isn't really well liked anymore. um, they've gotten criticized pretty much relentlessly. I want to say since Street Fighter 4. Street Fighter 4, it was well received, but had a lot of problems. And then from there, everyone kind of went on the Capcom hate train. And there's a ton of other reasons to dislike Capcom for other games, but we're talking about fighting games specifically. Started with Street Fighter 4, there was some scrutiny, and then it kind of slowly, and then Street Fighter 5 came out. One of the worst launches I've ever seen in my life for a game. I actually bought it on launch and I refunded it. And we'll get more into Street Fighter 5 later because they are improving it actually, but it wasn't very good. And then you look to Marvel, right? And the whole controversy about the fucking Infinity Eggs, right? That awful collector's edition. The controversy about the graphics and just the lack of communication between Capcom and its players, because Marvel has a very tight knit and loyal fan base. So there's no communication, and it also it's just to me, this is a personal opinion. The like there was a whole controversy about the roster. The roster felt small, and the story mode was awful. It was just a bad launch. Once again, a bad launch. It's like they learned nothing from Street Fighter 5. There were some good things on launch. I think Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is actually one of the best gameplay-wise, one of the best fighting games I've ever played. But that's just gameplay-wise. That doesn't matter to new players, right? They don't really. If a game is bad at the start, what new player is going to get invested enough to really get into the core of the gameplay and be like, wow, this is actually really good. And this is coming from me. I'm a brand new Marvel player, right? I have never played any other Marvel game a day in my life until Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite came out. So I'm pretty new to fighting games, or to Marvel. I'm still new to fighting games, but I have some experience. But to Marvel specifically, that was my first ever Marvel game, and I think the only reason why I didn't just turn away was because I was one streaming and I had a support group, I had a chat room of people telling me what's good, what's bad, helping me out. Right? Not everybody has that resource, and that all in all, I'm going on a little bit of a ramble there. Marvel's Capcom Infinite, ton of controversy. Did have some good things, like the netcode's pretty good, the core gameplay's pretty good, and there's some leaks and stuff coming out in the future, or coming out that maybe in the future there's going to be some big changes. But we'll get into how Capcom can redeem themselves later. What I really want to talk about is why I think Bandai Namco is killing it right now. They are killing it, and Bandai Namco is also has some controversy around their name. I mean, a lot of Japanese companies like this have some controversy around their name, um, and but I mean, in terms of the fighting game part of Bandai Namco's roster, they are doing an incredibly good job. And I think that the thought came to me when I was watching the Game Awards, as I was mentioning at the very start, and they showed the Soul Calibur trailer. And when I saw this, right, when we all saw this, I was streaming this. When we saw this, everybody was freaking out, right? Everybody was like, "This is just some gameplay of it." Everybody was freaking out because this was like, Bandai Namco has Dragon Ball FighterZ, Tekken 7, which is already an incredibly popular game on PC and console, one of the most popular PC fighting games, right? And it's huge on console, and it's huge in arcades all across the world. It's just it's massive. I dare I say Tekken is the biggest it's ever been. I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty confident in that statement. It's the biggest. Tekken is the biggest it's ever been. And so they have these 3 games that, I mean, obviously Soul Calibur is new, but from the information that we know of Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's going to be a fantastic game. They got Arc System Works to work on it, which is a world-renowned fighting game creator, fighting game developer. And they have Tekken 7, which is fantastic Tekken game. Everyone loves Tekken 7. And the same people who are making, I doubt that Soul Calibur will be a bad game if it's made by the people that made Tekken 7. That guy sitting on the right there, he was one of the lead developers on Tekken 7. And he split off, right? He split off to work on Soul Calibur. So this game has a lot of promise. So and compare this, right? Compare this to all the players waiting. You don't know how many people I know who are just waiting to drop Marvel the second Dragon Ball FighterZ comes out, because they're obviously two different. Obviously, they're 2 different games, but they're both team fighters, so that translates a little bit. So they're dropping one team fighter for another. And let me pull up some Dragon Ball FighterZ stuff for you. This, like, Dragon Ball FighterZ is just, this game is just beyond hype in the fighting game community. Visuals fantastic. Gameplay, everybody that's played it says it's great. It's made by Arc Sys, as I mentioned before, who's known for their legendary tutorials. This is going to be accessible. People complain a bit that it's too simplified, but in that it won't be competitive, but I don't think that'll be true. I think that it will be great for new people to play, and I think it'll be very competitive for good players as well. Now, this is just assumptions based off of the videos that I've watched, and I watched like the tournament that they had at the Tekken 7, big Tekken 7 tournament. They had a little Dragon Ball FighterZ exhibition match, and just watching gameplay videos and just really pretty much keeping really close eye on this game. It looks extremely promising. And so you compare all this to the fighting game community, and they're just the overwhelming negativity around Capcom games, and it's actually a little depressing. It really is. It's actually a little depressing how much negativity is around the games like Marvel, and I guess a smart person would say just ignore that, right? Ignore the negativity. Ignore all the haters. Play what you have fun playing. but at least for myself, I don't know how true this is for any viewers, but I have a hard time playing a game and being involved in a game if everything surrounding the game is negative or the community is just full of sass, right? The community's full of sass and nobody's excited about the game, and like, yeah, see, like, pro, you know what I mean? Like, it's very difficult to get invested in a game, and it shouldn't be like that, right? You should just play what you have fun playing, and find your group of friends that you'll play against, and you'll have a good time, and all that jazz. But it's not that easy, in my opinion. It's and this is like a super first world problem, but you know, it's okay. um, it's just not that easy. And everybody, I mean, obviously there's going to be a negativity in any circle, right? I'm sure there's negativity in the Tekken scene. I'm sure there's going to be negativity in the Dragon Ball scene, and I'm sure there's going to be negativity in the Soul Calibur scene. But it's not as overwhelming as it is in Marvel, and it still lingers in Street Fighter. Street Fighter has definitely gotten better. It has definitely gotten better, and we will get into that a little bit later. But I think that Bandai Namco has legitimately they have their cards on the table. They got Tekken, they have Soul Calibur, and they have Dragon Ball FighterZ. I mean, I'm just gonna. This is, in my opinion, all of them are gonna be fantastic games, right? I mean, one of them already is a fantastic game. One of them is already pretty much confirmed to be a fantastic game, and then Soul Calibur. I mean, obviously we don't have any hard evidence, right? I'll pull up some more Soul Calibur gameplay. We don't have any hard evidence of Soul Calibur being a great game, but I'm willing to bet it will be. And it's gonna take away a lot of Capcom's player base. I thoroughly believe this, and it's a little bittersweet. You could look at it from one angle, right? Where you can say, well, this is competition, right? It's like when when Beam, or which is now Mixer, and when Mixer came out, everyone's like, this is good for Twitch, right? Twitch has competition now. It gives them a reason not to be complacent. I'm not implying that Capcom never had competition before, but I definitely think Capcom got complacent. And I think that they're paying for it. The fact that only 900,000 copies were shipped, not even sold, of Marvel's Capcom Infinite. Think of the. Just think of like what surrounds Marvel's Capcom Infinite, a legacy, a huge legacy in the fighting game community. Marvel, the biggest. I think it's. I don't know how true this is. I feel like it's Marvel is up there with like Star Wars now, right? Star Wars might be a little bit bigger, but Marvel's up there in terms of like popular culture. Like, these Marvel movies sell like crazy. Kids are buying Marvel toys. Marvel is in the spotlight more than it has ever been. And I'm not even a huge Marvel person, so someone in the chat or in the comments, please correct me. But it's insane how popular Marvel is. It is in the limelight, up there with Star Wars and Kim Kardashian and all that shit. You have a game with Marvel in the title, with Marvel characters. And there's like no hype? What? Where's the hype? Where's the Marvel vs. Capcom hype? Like, and I understand Capcom is struggling, right? They are climbing out of their, if I remember correctly, we can Google this right now real quick while we're talking about it. Capcom may be like in debt or close to bankruptcy. I know they're not doing too well. They are, yeah. Just looking around, they're not making much money. So I can understand, right? I'm not saying this is 100% Capcom's fault. I'm sure the market right now is incredibly difficult for game developers, and they are making kind of niche games. Fighting games are niche. They're hard. They don't pull in the popular audience. But if Injustice 2 can sell 1 million copies, I'm pretty confident in that. Justice 2. How many units did Injustice 2 sell? Here we go. Injustice 2 sold globally 1.10 million units. And that's Injustice. That's not even a huge fight. Injustice 1 was like pretty popular, right? It wasn't huge. Injustice 2 sold 1.10 million copies. And I remember the marketing behind Injustice 2 is pretty good. It was on like sodas, I'm pretty sure. I saw it on TV. I saw it on forums and on the internet and ads on the internet. But I don't remember seeing dick. You can say again in the comments or in the chat. I don't remember seeing shit for Marvel. Street Fighter 5 had some good advertising, and it still does. Actually, I saw some advertising for Street Fighter 5 on some Red Bull cans actually like the other week, and because they're partnered with Red Bull and they have Red Bull tournaments and stuff. So Street Fighter is holding their own, but and I may seem a little disgruntled towards just the general scene of fighting games right now because I am, and I just wanted to rant about this and talk about it. But it seems just from an outsider perspective that Marvel right now is just kind of in the dumps, right? It's not. No one cares. It doesn't even seem like Capcom cares. And that's why I'm hoping that the leaks that came out are true, because it'll mean a lot. But see what Nathan said. Marvel's Capcom Infinite lack of hype. A lot of it died when they saw the low quality art assets, I think, and the rehashing. I agree. I mean that's what we're saying, Proto. When people saw how bad it looked visually, that was a huge turnoff. And then they usually release information on these games in chunks, right? So they release a gameplay trailer and they show gameplay, and it's like, ew. And then they release like the full roster, and everyone's like, ugh, like what? And then and it's such a shame too, because, and I'm repeating myself, but the core gameplay of Marvel's Capcom Infinite is so fun. It's so fun. It's addicting, but everything surrounding it is a shithole. And we know that Capcom can do better, because look at Venom. Venom looks amazing. He looks like so much fun, right? And a price drop is an interesting point of view. I think it definitely needs to happen too. I have a hard time justifying most fighting games in the current way they're being released being $60. Especially when just 2 months down the road after release, they're having DLC characters. It's no secret they hold back characters from the roster for DLC. This is no secret. This isn't new. This isn't just in fighting games. But I just don't know how viable it is for Capcom, and I know they're struggling. Maybe things are a little bit better for them now, because they've had some other titles that are good. But all this in mind, all this context is why I think that Bandai Namco it's taking charge in the fighting game scene. There's more support for the games. The scenes are growing. Tekken 7 being big on PC is a huge indicator. A huge indicator of a fighting game being successful. It's hard for a fighting game to have a population on PC. It's really hard. It's just not popular on PC, but Tekken manages to pull 3,000-4,000 players daily, and a lot of people playing on console as well, and it runs great. It looks great. We can only assume the same for Dragon Ball FighterZ, considering it's made by ArcSys, who is also known for really good netcode. And I'm assuming they're probably good. Soul Calibur's probably going to run just as well. It doesn't. I mean, if we look at Soul Calibur gameplay again, oops, my bad. If we look at Soul Calibur gameplay again, like this game, it looks like a graphical upgrade, right? It's definitely a graphical upgrade from Tekken, but it's not like a massive graphical update. Those leaks need to be true if they want a chance to get people back at the Marvel's Capcom Infinite. I pretty much agree with that. If does anyone know a way to look up numbers of players on PlayStation? Is that accessible? Because I'm curious on how many people play Marvel on PS4. I genuinely am. Does anyone know? I don't think it's possible, but I might be wrong. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but I obviously I'm sure more people play on PS4 than PC. I'm quite sure of that in terms of Marvel player base. But it just goes to show that I hear a lot that from a very specific somebody in particular who may or may not be in this chat that finding games on PC are dead, and that there's no point of getting them on PC. But I think Tekken 7 is really not. I mean, really is a good example of if you have a supported, well produced, good fighting game, it will sell on PC, and it will have thousands of players. Yeah, Marvel's Capcom has 106 people. A game with Marvel in the title, where you can play as Iron Man. Imagine all the marketing behind that. You could play as Iron Man. You could play as fucking Thor, Thanos. There's movies coming out around the same plot that's in Marvel's Capcom Infinite. And has 106 people playing. How abysmal. How awful. And then look at Tekken 7. We can look it up right now. Tekken 7 probably has like 3,000 people playing right now. A little less than I expected, but still much better, right? Still much better. All-time peak 18,000. 24-hour peak is almost 3,000. But you could see, like, Tekken does well. I think that if you're in the thousands for a fighting game on PC, that's beautiful, right? Like, obviously, the more the better. But I think when you're in the thousands for a fighting game on PC, that's huge. Because that goes to show that even the hardest of markets, there's interest, and if there's interest in a really hard to sell market like PC, then imagine it on console. I think just having Marvel in the name doesn't save it from the fact that it's a hyper fighter and they can be scary to get into for newcomers. Yeah, but I don't think difficulty stops a game from being sold. I firmly believe that. I don't think difficulty stops a game from being sold. Um, Imagine a better looking Marvel with a better tutorial system and a better story, better like story single player campaign. Same difficulty gameplay, same fast paced, all that. Um, Tekken, I mean, shit, man. Tekken 7 has no tutorial, and that game's hard as fuck, and it's super popular. But that's because there's hype, there is support, there's communication. Everybody loves that fucking guy. I forget his name. Um, I don't know. It it's I don't think difficulty affects the sales that much. When you're looking at a fighting game, an already niche genre, it's not too hard to believe. I suppose. I mean, most fighting game communities are open to helping new players. You can go into any Discord for any fighting game, and I would know because I've done this for Guilty Gear, Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7, and Marvel now. 4 fighting games. I've gone into their Discords and be like, "Hey guys, I need help." Instant responses, instant people wanting to help me. That's the same for any fighting game. I'm talking. I it just seems like um they missed a really big opportunity. And that's what I think we can start. Let me just recap my final thought real quick on why I think Bandai Namco's taking over the fighting game scene. And then I'll get into why I think there's a potential for Capcom to take it back over. And why it's like and how they're doing it. So I think in conclusion on that point of Bandai Namco taking over the fighting game scene. Um, 3 great games. Just like when this trailer dropped, how much fucking hype was there? Everybody lost their shit. I even lost my shit, and I never played a Soul Calibur game in my life. Like, just they just everything. They're doing everything right. Not everything. Obviously, there's some criticism of any fighting game, but they're doing most things right and better than Capcom. They're basically stealing all of Capcom's bitches. They're basically stealing all of Capcom's bitches, and there's nothing they can do about it. So, with all that contextual stuff, we just discussed, all the negativity around Capcom, all the hate, the fuck ups on launches, the disappointment in Marvel, Bandai Namco is taking the player bases, taking the players. You don't know how many people I know that used to be Street Fighter players and are now playing Tekken. The community, the content producing communities are playing Bandai Namco games more. You go into the streaming sections of Marvel, Street Fighter, they're not big at all. I mean, they're okay, but they're bigger in Tekken. They're going to be pretty big in Dragon Ball FighterZ, I think, especially because Dragon Ball FighterZ is such a popular, just cult class. I don't even want to say cult classic. Like it's pretty high up there, right? Everybody knows what Dragon Ball Z is. Dragon Ball Z. Every person I talk to on the internet loves Dragon Ball Z. Not every single person, but you know. Everyone here knows that if you reach out your arm, you'll hit someone that loves Dragon Ball Fighter or loves Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Someone that loves Dragon Ball Z, right? It's huge. Yeah, content creators like Max aren't really touching Street Fighter 5, but with all that in mind, that's why I think Bandai Namco is right now on top of their game. They are taking over the fighting game scene. When Soul Calibur launches, and with Dragon Ball FighterZ, unless Capcom does what we're about to talk about next, I don't know. I mean, obviously we're not professionals, we're just giving our opinions, but in my opinion, if they don't do what we're about to talk about next, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't think they're gonna go down the toilet and no one's gonna play Capcom games anymore. That's a little bit of a doomsday prediction, right? That's not gonna happen at all. But I think that it'll be rough. I think it'll be rough for people who like Capcom games. All right, let's hear Nathan's hot take. As he's typing that up, we'll get into what Capcom's doing. So if you haven't really been paying attention, Capcom for Street Fighter V, right? Street Fighter V, I had mentioned, had one of the worst launches I'd ever seen in my life. Awful, 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 awful launch, and they are slowly recovering, or have recovered from that. Street Fighter V is a pretty active scene. Street Fighter, I think, will always be an active scene. It's just ingrained in gaming culture and in fighting game history. To me, it seems like Capcom is focusing on their brands and salvaging what they can with their fighting game. Yes, that is, I agree. Street Fighter V has done a pretty good job of rebuilding their game. Pretty good character releases, albeit expensive, and there is some criticism around the game still. Netcode isn't the best. But it's what I'm showing now. This is the Arcade Edition cinematic opening, showing you all the different characters that are in the game. All the new characters that I'm assuming will come with Arcade Edition. Is it? I don't know how. I'm pretty sure if you buy Arcade Edition of Street Fighter V, you will get these characters. I would hope so, considering you are buying, like you're buying another version of the game for. I'm assuming it's gonna be $60. It may be like $40. No, we don't know the price yet. Look, they're bringing back Blanca. Like, everybody was losing their shit when this launched, and this is good. This is a good launch trailer. This is hype. This is marketing. They've been doing this for Street Fighter for a while because Street Fighter is their golden child, their baby. Right. This is promising, and they're fixing the game. And obviously, with the Arcade Edition of Street Fighter V, they were saying how there's going to be better netcode. Obviously, you're getting all these new characters, you're getting new stages, an updated look, more game modes. I'm assuming more story, and they've been advertising the shit out of this game. Now, that's all well and good. I think that Street Fighter V will continue to be popular. The reason why I was talking before about Bandai Namco taking over is because I don't know if Street Fighter V will be able to carry Capcom in the fighting game scene alone. When you have 3 different games from Bandai Namco coming out, all fantastic fighting games. When you just have Street Fighter, I might be wrong. I think there's a pretty high chance I am wrong, but I don't want Capcom to suck. And this looks promising. So, keep up the good work and stop being so expensive. And hopefully your Arcade Edition isn't $60. It probably will. But we know they're going to have that model of season passes for characters. You're going to spend $40, $30 on a season pass for characters, and if you buy them individually, it's going to be like, what is it, like $4, $5, $6, I think, in Street Fighter. It's either $5 or $6 to buy a single character in Street Fighter. I think Tekken 7 has such a good customization and like DLC system. It's awesome. It's fantastic, right? It's so fun to like mess around and like unlock all these different cosmetics and stuff. I haven't messed around with it that much, but I know Nathan could speak on it. He has fucking characters look crazy. That's awesome. People love that shit. People like I was watching the there was this Japanese tournament at an arcade where it was the biggest Japanese tournament. And people, it was like through arcade machines, right? And people put so much, obviously, to play Tekken in an arcade in Japan, which is how most people play it there, you gotta put in a coin. You gotta put in basically $1. And they play out these games spending hundreds of dollars, and they customize their character, and they have a connection with their character, and it's customized. Like, do something like that for Marvel or Street Fighter. Just steal the fucking idea, right? People will say, you're stealing stuff from Bandai Namco, but we appreciate it. People want to put afros on Ryu and shit. When I said like a week ago they needed something like Marvel's Capcom Infinite Fractal meme, I was kind of serious. They had to do it with Marvel's Capcom 3. Yep. They did it with it was Marvel's Capcom 3, then it became Ultimate Marvel's Capcom 3. It's the same shit. I want to have Raw with an afro. Now we talked about what they're doing to fix Street Fighter 5. Let me see if I can find. Can you guys look as well? I'm gonna see if I can find the Marvel's Capcom. I find this. Okay. So, I think if Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, this is only part of the leaks, wants to come back, if they want to come back from their atrocious 103 players on PC, I'm pretty sure it's not looking too hot on PS4 as well. They're going to have to do a lot of the changes that have been leaked, and this guy that's leaked stuff before was right. He was right about, he also leaked the Ninja Turtles being an Injustice 2, and he leaked some Street Fighter 5 stuff, which also turned out to be true. So, and he also leaked the Venom and all that other stuff being true. So it's looking like it's true. But all these characters, a 2v2 mode, a free update next summer that adds more characters for free, updates to the visuals, and much more. I mean, I don't know. Is this like a link to? Okay, here we go. This is what we're looking for. Yes, Street Fighter 5 is getting new V triggers. So a 2v2 mode, hopefully this is true. This is a great way to get new players in, right? A 2v2 mode where you can control each character and whatever. That's fantastic. So that's great. Good way to bring in new players. I'm trying to find and see. Let's see. Here we go. The game is getting kind of patched to fix the graphics and art style and improve the visuals. The UI has included the things that will be touched up. Their goal is to get 58 to 60 characters and include a tournament mode. Like, these are all things, honestly, I mean, 58 to 60 characters is, I would not expect that on launch, but better graphics, a tournament mode, a 2v2 mode, I would even argue, should be something released on launch. Dragon Ball FighterZ has it. Dragon Ball FighterZ has great visuals, and they have, I don't know if they have a tournament mode, but they do have a team mode. And I mean, we just have to hope this is true. Yeah, better ingredients, better pizza, Marvel vs. Capcom, right? That's just, it should not have been launched in the state that it was. I'm sure they were behind or they were being rushed. But yeah, team mode, Nonka S. That's scary for some people who don't want to get yelled at. Are we ordering pizza? No. Making a meal. But all these characters, Ant-Man apparently was cut, but you know, some other. I mean, who gives a fuck about Ant-Man? Right? All these different characters that are coming to the game. Let me see. Star-Lord, Miss Marvel, Green Goblin, Wolverine, Cyclops, Psylocke, Magneto, Storm, Deadpool, Doctor Doom. This will be huge because he's like really popular in the Marvel's Capcom universe. Asura, Lady, Gil, Rashid, Captain Commando, Nina, Dees, Regina, Jean, Virgil, Akuma. I don't know who Apollo Justice is, but you know, cool, right? These are all like hype as fuck. Most of them are. Um, so we have to pray if we want Marvel to succeed, we have to pray that this leak is true and this guy has been right about other things. Most importantly, I think with the free update needs to come a price drop. Apollo Justice from Ace Attorney. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, isn't Ace Attorney like super popular? Um, I think that if I have to like boil it down to like three things that would save Marvel if we're being this basic. Graphic update, better graphics, free characters. If I could throw in another price drop. If we want to make it top 5, better marketing? I don't know. Or more tournament support, more esports. I hate the fighting game community hates the word. More competitive gaming support. Battle of the Stones was cool, but they treated it like a side bitch at Capcom Cup. It was not a main event at all. It wasn't treated like a premier event, at least from a spectator's point of view. Sports. I mean, I know the fighting game community doesn't like the word esports, but just fucking. Let's see. Try to see if I can recognize this. Okay, Apollo Justice. Okay, yeah. I recognize this picture. Um, I think that's what it comes down to, really, for Marvel to be saved. If Capcom wants to compete in this fighting game universe, in the fighting game genre, for the next couple years, I don't know if they plan on releasing any more fighting games. I know most of their fighting games revolve around Marvel and around Street Fighter. They're going to have to step it up in terms of support for their games. They're doing that for Street Fighter V. At least it looks like they are with the launch of Arcade Edition. And we're just not sure about Marvel's Capcom. But when you have you're gonna have Dragon Ball FighterZ already, pretty much confirmed to be a great game. You have Tekken 7, the 3D fighter. That is huge. Huge tournament scene, huge player base, even on PC. And then Soul Calibur, huge history, made by the people who made Tekken 7, looks great, already good marketing and hype. I'm sitting here like with my fight stick in my lap, wondering, like, am I wasting my time like just loading up Marvel right now? Because I might have fun playing it, but who am I gonna play against if everyone fucking leaves? It's like, and this sounds a little doomsday, and I am being a little sensational. I'm not going to lie. I am being a little sensational, but what? I'm a gamer. I have to be irrational. Oh god. But I think that's where we'll call it for this conversation. If anyone else has any final memes, we can discuss them real quick, or any final comments or whatever. Feel free. But I think that's where we'll call this discussion, and then we'll just transition into a normal stream. A final comment.